Hello and welcome to a new week of meals. I am starting off by using some leftover Easter ham in a fried rice. So I am putting plenty of extra virgin olive oil into my skillet. I want to make sure that we have enough oil because we want to coat all of that rice that I'm going to put in a little bit later. I have some smashed garlic here now that I am browning. Ordinarily I don't brown my garlic. I don't like it to get very toasty and kind of burnt, but it really lends itself to flavoring the rice when you get it nice and brown. So that's what I'm doing here. Adding some chopped onions that I had diced up a little bit earlier in the day. I'm going to mix these two, saute them until they are a bit softened, and then I'm going to add the rice. Once the onions are nice and translucent, I'm going to add my rice. Now this rice I pulled from the freezer. This was leftover rice that I didn't end up using for one particular evening, and I went ahead and threw it in a Ziploc bag into the freezer. Rice freezes really, really well. I just defrosted it earlier in the day, and you know, when you make fried rice, it's really best to use rice that isn't freshly cooked. You want something that has a bit of that moisture already drawn out. So we're going to continue that process by drawing out a little bit more moisture. We're going to fry this up in that garlic onion oil that you created, and we're just going to warm this through and make sure there's oil on all of that rice. And then I'm going to add my flavorings. So I like to use oyster sauce. This is what my mom used, my aunt used. We don't really add soy sauce to our fried rice. You can if you'd like, but there is a bit of sweetness that comes with some oyster sauce. Now, as with any kind of seasoning process, you want to add a little bit at a time because you can always add more. You can't take it away. So I add a little bit of a little bit of oyster sauce just to get the flavors started. And then I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients here. I have a freshly diced carrots. You can absolutely use frozen. I didn't have a frozen package of peas and carrots, so I went with fresh carrots. Here is the diced up leftover Easter ham. So delicious. If you want the recipe for this, please check out in the cards above and down below the link for my Easter ham video. And then we've got the frozen peas. You can add as much or as little of each of these components as you'd like. And then I'm obviously going to go in for a taste just to see if I need to add any more of that oyster sauce, which I do. Again, add a little bit at a time because you can always add more. And there is the fried rice done. I'm going to add a bit of Aldi Heat and Serve Hawaiian chicken. This already has some pineapple bits in it, but they were pretty pathetic, so I added some more canned pineapple chunks. But that was our dinner for the evening. So good. So good. Next evening, I decided to get a bit more fancy. I did buy some salmon a little bit earlier in the previous week or 2 weeks, I don't recall, but it was in the freezer. I'm going to make some salmon here. I just sheet pan cooked, and I'm going to add some veggies to it. So I'm starting off with some red cabbage that I'm going to braise. I thought that nice acidic tangy flavor would be really complementary to like just a very simple sheet pan salmon. So I'm slicing up this tiny head of red cabbage, and then I'm going to add to that some onion. I'm just using half of an onion here. Any recipes that I have, I will link down below. This one, I'm just winging it. I believe most of these recipes in this video, I am just kind of winging. However, I'll link some similar recipes down below so you can kind of get an idea. But if you just follow along here, you can kind of get the gist of what I'm doing. I've got one shallot here that I am going to dice up really fine, and that is going to be for the lemon butter sauce for the asparagus that I'm also going to serve with the salmon. Taking everything to the stove top now, I am going to cook the braised cabbage, starting off by heating up some extra virgin olive oil, and I'm going to soften the onion. Once the onions have softened for a couple minutes, I'm going to add the red cabbage, and I'm going to braise this in a liquid that is basically, you can use chicken stock if you'd like. I use chicken bouillon mixed with water. This is just that Knorr chicken bouillon flavored chicken flavored bouillon. So I've added that liquid to the cabbage, just tossing everything around to make sure that everything's coated. I'm going to pop a lid on this, leave it cracked just a teensy bit. You'll see I'll adjust it here, and then I'll let that cook down for a few minutes. I'm going to check this periodically, kind of give everything a little turn, and I'm going to do that until it's gotten nice and soft. Not mushy, but just soft enough. It is going to cook for a few more minutes, so I want to make sure it doesn't get too mushy. Once the red cabbage is softened to my liking, I'm going to add the apple cider vinegar. So you can see now this deep purple that the cabbage is. I'm going to add some pepper here as well as some sweetener. The sweetener that I'm going to use is monk fruit with erythritol, 100%. Use sugar or brown sugar if you're not trying to avoid it, but I am, so I'm using monk fruit. You're going to adjust the ratio according to the way you want this to taste. You can also do it to the recipe. Again, I'm going to link some similar recipes down below if you just want to follow that. But I'm going to give it a taste. I'm going to add a little bit more apple cider vinegar and some sweetener because I feel like it needs that. And again, a bit more of some black pepper. This is pretty much done once you get the flavor the way you like it. So one final taste, and then I'm going to set that aside and focus on the sheet pan salmon that I'm going to cook along with asparagus. I have lined my sheet pan with some foil, and I put down a bit of extra virgin olive oil that I'm just brushing around. This is going to help the salmon from sticking to the foil, and I'm going to try to make all 4 pieces of the salmon. I had cut them in 4 pieces. I'm going to try to make them fit on the sheet pan. Extra virgin olive oil on top, along with some extra virgin olive oil drizzled on the asparagus. I'm just picking off some scales here. This particular salmon that I got from Aldi had the skin on and a few scales were still on there. But I'm just removing that, brushing the olive oil all over the surface of the salmon so that it can cook nice and evenly. Sprinkling some Himalayan pink salt on top of the salmon as well as the asparagus. Just doing this very lightly. I don't want it to be too salty. I'd rather be able to add the salt later if it needs it, but some pepper as well. And then I've got some lemon slices that I'm just putting on top of the salmon to kind of help infuse the flavor as well as just to make it look pretty. While the oven is preheating, I am starting the lemon butter sauce for the asparagus. There you go, putting the salmon and the asparagus into the oven to cook for about 20 minutes or so. I believe I put it at 375. Now I'm going to turn my focus to that lemon butter sauce. I have a recipe for this that I have linked down below in the description box. I have made a bit of a change, however. I am using shallot, not using any garlic, and I'm adding some Dijon mustard in lieu of white wine. I believe the recipe called for white wine. So I am just going to mix this together, get the flavors going, and then add the heavy cream. And then this is going to mix together and thicken just a teensy bit. Incidentally, I do have some rice cooking on that back burner, but now the sauce is starting to thicken. You can see as I move the spatula through it, the sauce does separate, but takes a little bit of time to come back together. So I think this is pretty good. I am going to remove it from the heat, and then I'm going to add the lemon juice. So I had squeezed some lemon juice ahead of time, and I'm going to add just a little bit at a time. I don't end up using the entire juice, all the juice from the entire lemon, but I'm going to give that a taste test, as I always do, after I add a bit of dried parsley. If you have fresh parsley, great. I thought adding some parsley would give it some color, maybe a little bit of flavor. I don't really know that the parsley really tastes like a whole lot, but it sure does look good. So after a bit of a taste test, I am happy with it. It is so good. It's really, really delicious. So I'm going to pull the salmon now. It's done after about 20 minutes. So you just want to make sure that the salmon is cooked. I don't use a thermometer, just kind of wing it. But yeah, it was nice and flaky, still super moist inside, which is just delectable when you eat it. There's nothing like eating dry salmon that just kind of isn't so great. But this is the finished plate. Got that nice baked salmon, that tangy, sweet and sour, bright fuchsia braised cabbage, and then that asparagus with that delicious tart lemon butter sauce. Last meal I'm sharing with you this week is more leftover Easter ham. I am basically doing ham and cheese panini served with a side salad. So I am using mayonnaise on the outside of the sourdough bread instead of butter. And this is that gorgeous, thickly sliced leftover Easter ham. I've just got some sharp cheddar cheese that I'm putting down on the bread here. Again, mayo on the outside, so on the inside I don't really have anything. I'm just using the cheese to help everything stick together like a glue. And then there's that really thick ham. All that fat, I just left it on there. No big deal. It's so good. And then I'm going to put a little bit more cheese on top of that again, as I mentioned, like a glue. So this is just shredded Mexican style cheese. Thought I'd just mix it up a little bit. And then again, the top piece of bread, mayo on the outside. Once the panini press is nice and hot, I'm going to put the sandwich right in the middle, or what I thought was the middle. You can see it's kind of like towards the back, so it didn't flatten evenly the first couple times. So I opened it, moved it forward a little bit, but then it was like too far forward. So it does flatten and even out, and then I end up getting it right in the center to finish cooking. So there you go, just a little push to the middle, and then I'm going to leave that on there until the bread is nice and toasty and grilled and the cheese is oozy, melty. After a few minutes, this is what you get. Oh, it was so good. So good. I did not eat the bread because I'm trying to avoid it. However, I did have a nice salad with the ham. I forgot to take a clip of that, but this is the inside of the sandwich here. Super hot. Cheese was nice and melty, but there's that thickly sliced, delicious sweet ham along with a side salad that I'm going to add right now. This is just an Aldi salad that I mixed with some blue cheese dressing. Also, I sliced up some tomato, and that was the last meal that I'm sharing for you this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I appreciate you stopping by and coming along with me to see what I fed my family for the week after Easter. I hope you guys take care, and I'll see you in the next video.